Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the mind of a preschooler. We're going to try and decode their totally fascinating and, let's be honest, often baffling logic to really get the unique rules that govern their world.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a classic puzzle. So imagine this. You lay out two identical rows of coins. A 4-year-old looks at them and agrees, yep, they're the same. Then, right in front of them, you just spread one row out, making it look longer. All of a sudden, that same kid is absolutely certain the longer row has more coins. Now, this isn't a mistake, it's a huge clue that they are thinking in a completely different way than we are.
To solve this little mystery, we have to understand that a child's mind from about age 2 to 7 plays by a completely different set of rules. It's a time of just incredible mental growth, but it's not at all what you might expect.
The legendary psychologist Jean Piaget, he gave us the first real key to unlocking this world. He called this period the pre-operational stage. And that pre-part, it's super important. It means they can think in symbols, which is a massive leap forward, but they can't yet perform the kind of logical operations or mental tricks that we adults just take for granted.
So, what are the rules of this pre-operational world? Piaget pointed out a few core characteristics that honestly explain so much about how these little kids see reality and, why they do the things they do.
Okay, first rule. Egocentrism. Now, this does not mean they're selfish or vain, not at all. It just means they literally cannot grasp that other people have different thoughts, feelings, or even a different physical point of view. It's kind of like they're the star of their own movie, and they just assume everyone else is watching from the exact same camera angle.
And this is exactly why a toddler might try to show you something on a phone while their back is turned to you. I mean, they can see it, so in their mind, you must be able to see it too. This is the very reason concepts like sharing or really truly understanding why a friend is sad can be so tough for them.
All right, next up we've got something called animism. This is that charming and sometimes pretty confusing belief that things like toys or furniture are alive and have feelings just like people. To a young child, that teddy bear isn't just a stuffed toy, it has thoughts and it can definitely get lonely.
This is why a kid might say the sky is crying when it rains or get really mad at a table for hurting them when they bump into it. They're not just being poetic or imaginative, they are applying their fundamental understanding of the world with things have intentions to absolutely everything around them.
And this brings us right back to where we started, with our coin puzzle. This is the classic experiment that shows their inability to conserve. That's the understanding that a quantity, like number or volume, stays the same even if its appearance changes.
So what's going on in their head? Well, two big things are holding them back. First is something called centration. They can only focus on one single striking feature, in this case, the length of the row. And second is irreversibility. They can't mentally rewind the action. They can't think, well, if I just push them back together, they'd be the same. For them right now, longer just equals more. End of story.
Now, Piaget's work was, absolutely groundbreaking. But science is never finished, right? Other researchers came along to test and build on his ideas. And they started to find that while Piaget was definitely on the right track, he might have actually underestimated what these kids are capable of.
And here's where the story gets a little more nuanced. It turns out, if you change the experiment, say, make it more like a fun game instead of a test, young children can sometimes take another person's perspective. They also seem to get the whole living versus non-living thing earlier than Piaget believed. It seems that how you ask the question matters a lot.
But here's the thing. A child's development is not a solo act. As it turns out, the people around them, parents, teachers, friends, play this massive role in how their understanding of the world actually gets built.
So while Piaget pictured the child as a kind of lone scientist, exploring and figuring out the world all by themselves, another brilliant thinker named Lev Vygotsky had a different idea. He said, no, children are social learners who actually build their knowledge through interacting and working with other people.
Vygotsky gave us this really powerful concept, the zone of proximal development. Just think of it as the perfect learning sweet spot. It's that space between what a kid can already do on their own and what's just totally out of reach for them. It's right there, in that zone, with a little bit of help from someone who knows more, that real, lasting learning happens.
And we can add another piece to the puzzle if we think about a child's mind kind of like a computer. The information processing view shows us that a young child's working memory, their mental scratchpad, is just much smaller than ours. We can hold about 7 chunks of info in our head, like a phone number. They can only hold maybe 2 to 5. That's a huge difference, and that limitation really affects everything they do.
So, you've got this emerging symbolic thought, you've got social learning, a slowly growing memory. What does all that add up to? Well, it fuels one of the most incredible feats of early childhood, the language explosion.
Get this, at age 2, an average kid has a vocabulary of about 500 words.
I mean, that's already pretty impressive, right?
But then, in just 4 short years, by the time they hit age 6, that number can explode to as many as 14,000 words. That is just an astonishing rate of learning. It really shows you how fast their brains are wiring up and making connections.
And we're not just talking about memorizing a dictionary here. They are mastering grammar, the meaning of complex sentences, and all the subtle social rules of how to have a conversation. This language boom is a direct result of their growing ability to think in symbols and to start putting their wild, wonderful world into categories.
So all this theory is fascinating, but it brings up a really critical question. If we know that children think in these fundamentally different ways, how should that change how we teach them? This is where all this brain science meets the real world of the classroom.
These cognitive theories have directly inspired some hugely influential educational philosophies. You've got the Waldorf method, which is all about creative exploration and imitation. Then there's the Montessori approach, where the teacher is more of an unobtrusive director, guiding a child's natural curiosity, and Reggio Emilia, which sees learning as this beautiful collaboration between the child, the teacher, and even the environment itself. Each one is built on a slightly different but deeply respectful understanding of how a child's mind actually works.
At the end of the day, what all of this research tells us is that a young child's world isn't illogical. Not at all. It just follows a different, totally valid, and internally consistent set of rules. Their answers aren't wrong. They are perfectly right for the way their brains are currently wired to see the world.
And that really leaves us with a final thought. We've just peeked behind the curtain at the unique operating system of the preschool mind. So now that you know their rules, how will you play the game? Because understanding their world is the absolute first step to helping them build their own.